Roundtable XXI.V, Plagiarism, Integrity, and Generative AI. Back in 2020, you/Georgy K. published a series of what we call Rules Roundtables. These are a series of posts that don't just restate the rules, but explain why they're in place, because we know we have a lot of them, and we know they're confusing for the uninitiated. We haven't published any new roundtables in a while because, for the most part, our rules and how we enforce them have remained relatively unchanged. Essentially, we haven't published any because we haven't needed to. However, in November 2022, we experienced a pretty seismic shift on the sub. OpenAI's release of ChatGPT generated a tidal wave of slop. We decided almost immediately that we didn't need a new rule to address AI-generated content. Inputting a prompt and copying the results is clear-cut plagiarism and violates our requirements for being an expert, making it a multi-rule violation. You can read more about our approach to plagiarism in Rules Roundtable XXI, Plagiarism and Integrity, but the TLDR is that presenting content you didn't create as your own is plagiarism, and that is a ban-worthy offense. It's also a clear violation of the spirit of our subreddit. AI does not possess expertise in topics related to the human past. You can read about our core requirements in Rules Roundtable II. The 4 questions, which describes how we approach expertise and its demonstration in answer writing. Back in 2022, we debated whether or not we should share our initial observations of and decisions related to ChatGPT with the community. We were concerned that a statement from the mods would draw undue attention and actually increase use of this new rule-violating technology. We were so naive then. But just a few months into the deluge, the community saw the same things we did and started to ask about it. Shortly after, we shared our first public statement. In that post, we clarified our stance. It is plagiarism. It violates the mission of the sub, which is to connect people with experts. It gets things wrong a lot, so the answers are crappy and rule-violating anyway. And if you aren't an expert, you won't know what it's getting wrong. People are perfectly capable of using generative AI on their own. Not much of that has changed since 2022. Unattributed use of generative AI results in a ban for plagiarism. AI-generated answers risk crowding out human expertise, since writing a new, custom answer to a question can take from several hours to several days. Why would an expert bother if no one will read their answer because it's buried by AI slop? We know a lot of people think they're helping by posting an AI-generated answer, but it actually undermines the core public history mission of the sub. As a reminder, we prefer unanswered questions over an answer from a non-expert. While our rules have not changed, over the last few years generative AI technology has improved. It's become more ubiquitous, and its use cases have shifted. People use it for more than just generating answers and therefore plagiarizing. They also use it to help them research, to correct grammatical errors and edit their text for translation, and probably more. None of those uses are plagiarism, but they often look a lot like it. We also have limited tools for detecting AI. Right now, we rely on some common tells, topic expertise gained through experience, and AI detectors. We don't rely on any of these alone. We also know that detectors falsely detect AI use among certain groups at greater rates, and we do not want to contribute to these groups getting unfairly penalized and censored. So to account for shifting use cases and our own human fallibility, we've broadened our approach a bit. That approach has become relatively stable, which means it makes sense to share with the broader community now. However, as the technology and its applications evolve, our approach to managing Gen AI use may shift too. If it does, we will update this post to reflect minor changes or create a new meta post if there's a major change. Below are some common use cases and how we approach them. We're listing these as examples and how we typically approach them. They should not be read as an exhaustive list. Since we evaluate each case contextually, the outcome of a similar case might be a bit different. This list is meant to be instructive, not as something to use to rules lawyer your way into violative AI use. AI use that will result in a ban. When generative AI is used for plagiarism. For example, generating historical claims, interpretations, or source citations on your behalf and presenting it as your own work. This includes pasting an answer directly from a Gen AI tool and piecing together the output from multiple prompts. AI use that will not result in a ban, but will result in the comment being removed. Using Gen AI to create an answer, but crediting the AI. For example, I asked ChatGPT and it said, will result in a removal but not a ban. AI use that will not result in a ban, and the comment will likely be removed. Using AI to help you find sources. This is similar to our approach when people rely on the Wikipedia article alone to find sources. It's likely an indication that you don't have the expertise to answer a question. AI is also known to generate citations that don't exist or say that real sources say things they don't. However, it's getting harder to disentangle search and Gen AI, so this use case is highly contextual. If you use AI to find a source, but locate it and read it for yourself, that's fine. AI use that is often acceptable, but will still be reviewed. Using AI for grammar. As above, overuse of grammar checks tend to trigger commentells and again may result in a temporary removal followed by an approval upon review. Using AI for organization or formatting. While it is not a rule violation to use AI to help you organize your thoughts, help create an outline, or format your answer, it often results in structures that are AI-ish, so we discourage its use. Using AI to generate a summary or TL/DR of your own post. Again, while it technically doesn't violate the rules, please don't do this because it generates a lot of reports. Plus, we discourage the use of TL/DRs anyway. Using AI as an accommodation for your disability. This would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Use for translation will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. If you can show that you used Gen AI, including Google Translate, for translating your own work, we will overturn the ban. However, whether or not we will approve the answer, if it does not appear to be otherwise rule-violating, will depend on how you used AI as a translation tool and our ability to evaluate your expertise. We strongly encourage folks using LLMs to support with translation to reach out to us for guidance. What to expect if we think you're using AI in a rule-violating way? If you say you used AI to generate an answer, that results in a comment removal, and that's the end of that. If you share in an answer that you used AI in an assistive way, we will review that on a case-by-case basis. It will likely result in the removal of your answer, and, if the answer would otherwise meet our standards, a discussion in ModMill. You are not required to proactively disclose assistive AI use in your answer. However, contacting the mod team in advance if you're unsure is recommended. If you do not say you used AI to generate an answer, and we suspect that you may be using AI in a rule-violating way, you will receive a ban. However, everyone banned for AI use is told how to submit an appeal. It feels harsh, but part of our rationale is to bring people to ModMill so we can have a discussion and avoid a public call-out that can lead to pylons. Once you are in ModMill, we will ask you to explain your process, not as a presumption of wrongdoing, but to better understand how the answer was produced and whether it reflects subject matter expertise. As part of that process, we will ask you to present supporting evidence and documentation for non-violative use. Therefore, if you plan to use generative AI to support your answer, we recommend the following practices: using an account that will save your chat, documenting your process, and/or reaching out to us in advance so that we can help guide you. As a note, Answers that reflect expertise do not have to be grammatically or structurally perfect. If you didn't use generative AI at all, then we will have a conversation about the basis of your answer expertise. How these conversations go will always be context-dependent, but please note that a proof of credentials, like a degree, is not itself sufficient, and attempting to use AI to generate denials will not convince us that you didn't use AI to generate your answer. While we might overturn a ban in the case of a false positive, that doesn't guarantee we will approve the answer. We recognize that many contributors, especially those writing in a second language, managing disabilities, or returning to academic writing, use assistive tools to participate more fully. Our goal is not to exclude those voices, but to ensure that answers reflect genuine engagement with the historical record to the best of our ability. We also know no scheme is perfect for catching violative AI-generated content, and we expect some percentage gets through. Ultimately, we have always counted on the majority of users being here in good faith. Therefore, we also have 3 asks of you. If you are using AI in a way that does not violate our, drop your verdict in the comments. Wait, what?